Welcome back to Too Big to Fit. I'm Mackenzie Morris, and today I am with one of my besties in the entire world. She also owns the most incredible company called Party Mami. I will let her tell you all about that, but she is like balloon, charcuterie, party vibe queen. So I will let her tell you all about her. Okay, we are just going to have a normal ass conversation, and we're just going to go from there and see where it goes, because we always have the best conversation. I'm Mackenzie Morris, and after 15 years of building brands, scaling businesses, and creating empires across industries, I have learned that it is not only okay to be uncontainable, it's actually a superpower built within the multi-passionate, the visionaries, and the big dreamers. This is the first multi-dimensional business podcast that mixes strategy, identity, personal stories, conversations, and the messy, unfiltered parts of being a creative to help you build a brand that's impossible to ignore just by being exactly who you are. This is the Too Big to Fit podcast. Before we get into this episode, I want to let y'all know of a little disclaimer, okay? This episode I have pieced together from two separate recordings. I had some tech failures, so please bear with us. It might be a little clunky, but I tried my best to make it flow. We talked about so much in this episode. Reality shows, identity, business, self-worth, motherhood, weed. Literally talked about it all. So stay tuned. Come with us for the ride. It is a great, super fun, super interesting conversation that really has no limits and no direction. It is completely uncontainable, and that's exactly what we want here. So, enjoy! We just recorded a probably 45-minute long podcast, and my phone fucked me over and ran out of storage and stopped recording 7 minutes in. So we had some incredible thoughts and perspectives that will probably come back around. We're a wealth of knowledge and inspiration and all of the things.
Never a shortage of things.
Yes. Tell them who you are, what you do, all that good stuff.
Okay. Well, I am an event planner, and I do balloons and charcuterie. Basically, I'm just like a super type A. I like to do a little bit of everything. But also the business that I own it's called Party Mami. But the emphasis is on kind of being more of a community too. So like all of our vendors outside of what I do, because I only do the things that I'm good at and I enjoy. And if I don't like it and I would be inclined to not do my best at any point, I do not do it. I'm not going to spread myself.
Yeah, you'll refer it out.
Yeah, I'm not going to spread myself then for something I don't enjoy doing.
Right.
So all of the vendors that, like the cookies, the baking, the florals, any like large floral project, we hire that stuff out. And all those vendors are also female owned moms or family owned businesses that are led by women. And I'm like super passionate about just like creating a community feel where we're all like getting to know each other and a part of each other's children's lives. And like kind of like you, like once we became friends, I was like, hey, bring your kids to my kids' parties. And so the boys are always there, and I like to create that vibe like within our team. Like we're not like, like a typical company that has like a family company Christmas party, you know what I mean? But like we do that kind of stuff like all throughout the year with like being there for each other. We take turns like spoiling each other's kids, like, our other vendors, like we just have like a standing trade, and we really do operate like as a community as well as an event planning company.
I freaking love it. Isn't she incredible? She's one of my favorite humans, and
so sweet.
Your heart is incredible, and I'm just so excited for the world to kind of get to know that side of you. And I mean, I'm sure most people do, because you share your heart on your sleeve all of the time. But I know that's one reason why I made this podcast, was for the people who feel like you have a lot more to share than just the one thing, than the thing that you do, right? Like, I love business, and people love to identify me as, a strategist. I'm all about business and all that stuff, and that's great, and I am. But I, dive a lot more into identity and mindset and energy also. And that's a big part of successful business strategy, right? It all comes together, but I have a life outside of it that I want to share. So that's what this space is. It can be business, it can be structured, it can be knowledgeable, and it can be real and raw and casual and smoking thoughts and all of those things, you know?
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of like my creative juices, right? Like, sometimes I do just smoke and like vibe out, and then I'm like my most productive. And I know that for a lot of people, they're like, that's not normal. And I'm like, but what do you think like ADHD medication is and stuff like that? I'm like, it's all. So some of us choose just to medicate like a more like herbal way. So it's just like, you know, earthy stuff.
Earthy stuff. I love it. Well, here's the thing for me. Smoking is a big part of my life. One, it was what I did to make my brain slow down. Because I do have combined type ADHD, it was hard for me to shut my brain off. And I couldn't, and I wouldn't sleep. And, you know, all of that stuff. So now it helps me kind of slow them down to where I can get one or two ideas and then I can run with it. And that usually leads into my inspired action and all of that stuff. But it slows it down so I can kind of focus a little bit. Whether that focus is truly 100% where I need to go, it's definitely a side quest. Right? And then, you know, if it'll always bring me back to the core.
Well, I have ADHD, so it was already going to be that way.
Right. So why judge? Why judge yourself?
Like, I always tell people it helps me organize my thoughts. Like, whenever I arrive at an event, right, I have to organize my things. And, like, Trevor's like, is it necessary to put everything in a certain way? I'm like, yes. Because if I do it this way, I will be fast. Like, I'm going to pump out 50 feet of balloons in 30 minutes, and then I'm going to assemble it in 5, and then we're going to be out of here in an hour. But if I don't do that, and anytime I try to be super simple, try to shortcut it, half-ass yourself, you might as well have just done it the longest, most
literally takes more time. Every single time you try and take a shortcut, especially nowadays with technology, it will take you.
Oh my god.
Here is the reason. I just did a whole episode about this, or it came up in an episode recently, and I was talking about this idea of the longer you take to keep searching for a shortcut, you are not only wasting time looking for another solution instead of just doing something the long way, but now you have to find that thing, you have to learn how to use it and go through the learning curve and the cost curve and the energy curve to even have an understanding of how to use it, when if you would just taken that same effort and done it the hard, normal way, you would have gotten there probably faster at the same time, right? Like, that thought blew my freaking mind.
Yeah.
when I thought about it that way.
Yeah, and then also, you're kind of depriving yourself of learning the skill so you can streamline it so it can become something that's much faster. And, like, I think that, like, that's kind of like with back to, like, getting on location, becoming organized, and then moving into the project, and how it seems like on paper it could take longer. It really does. When girls say, I just don't have time to film on location or whatever, I'm like, but you have time to do all the things that you have to do.
Right. Yeah. So you could just plan it in there.
Okay, but if it was something that you saw as something you have to do, it would become part of your practice, part of your SOP, part of the way that you operate, and therefore become second nature in your behavior. And then you would have the B-roll.
Okay, right. Okay, let's break this down, though, for you guys, because y'all might be like, okay, I hear that, right? I hear it, right? Yes, I can plan to do it. I get out the car, and I know I'm going to film footage of whatever I'm doing that day, and I'm going to have a video by the time I leave. But you might be like, how am I going to know what to film, right? That's where you make a shot list, y'all. You make a shot list if you need one, if you can't keep one in your head, or if you don't feel like you're a person that can creatively just get those angles, you know, on the fly. Make a shot list and say, okay, go research other people that are doing stuff like this and saying, okay, their first shot was them opening the car door, and then they got out, and then, but when they were walking into the store, it wasn't them holding their phone, it was them on a tripod catching them walking into the store, right? Break it down. Do research. Put in the effort to study like you did in school. This is something that people have lost the ability to do, is learn how to study something, to learn how to get good. That's why I've gotten so good at my job. I read a lot of books and articles and blogs and podcasts and all of those things so I can learn and get better at the things I'm not perfect at. Most people just Google something and have it tell them the answer, and then they're not practicing it, they're not applying it, and they're not adding it into their knowledge base.
Yeah, exactly. I would definitely agree with that. And I think that also when it comes to social media, arguing that, I hate when I see people saying, I have to do this, or now that I own a business, now I am forced to become a content creator. And it's like, that's an I hear you, and I get that we're all overworked and underpaid. Biblically, feel that in my bones, okay? And 100% commiserate. But also, like, think about if you were an artist in 1989. That is still in our lifetime for some of us, or not much further outside of our lifetime, right? But still would be a time where if you were an artist, it would be tooth and nail, boots on the ground, grassroots.
Carrying that painting down the street.
Literally, like, Yellow Pages type shit, my brother. Like, bad.
Phone book.
Literally. Phone book, okay? Like, we're talking about, like, you can't even just, like, call a taxi. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're, like, it's crazy. Like, right? You are out here having to, like, do the work and, like, be on, you know what I mean? But nowadays, you can just simply make a piece of content, and if you religiously post that piece of content, you are, like, first of all, even if you have the shittiest, most shadow banned account, you are minimally going to be getting a 300% opportunity every time you post.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty guaranteed analytics, bottom of the barrel, where everybody starts, right?
You can look at pages like this that have one video, and they start out thousands, and then they start getting millions, and then it's the same one video. It's volume.
Exactly, and if you strategically think about it, versus, like, having to literally, like, if you lived in New York City and you're trying to get in, you know, you're having to go out and hail a taxi and do all these crazy things to, like, and you're transporting your art and you're having to physically move it from place to place because there are no smartphones, there are no easy digital imaging, the world isn't at your fingertips. And now, if you have the worst reach, you can reach 300 people a day.
Wow.
And 300 people a day is over 100,000 at the end of the year.
Right, y'all, hear that. 300 views is not a minimal amount, y'all.
Because if you, like,
Don't be
like I said,
ungrateful.
that's, I mean, I get that once you're working at it over a while, that really just,
It does suck. I still
but at
think.
the same time, it's like, I think that social media has kind of distorted our perception of what a lot truthfully is.
Yes. Yeah.
And because I think $300 is a lot, 300 minutes is a lot, like 300 days is almost a year.
Yeah.
So when you think about it in, like, retrospect, like, I saw someone talking about, like, I don't know if you follow Hyatt Sarah.
Yes, I think so.
I love her, and I got the opportunity to meet her before she was super popular. She was still really, like, social media and, like, had a great following in my opinion, but I think, like, in the last year, she's just blown up, which is so well deserved. She's such a great person. Anyways, I digress. Where was I going with this thought? See, that just happened to me. It just happened to me.
Okay, guys, this is the sign whenever you're talking, and whether we've been smoking or not, if you can't remember what you were going to say because it slipped your mind, this is the motion, okay? And so whenever it happens in videos or whatever, don't stop recording, just this. And then everyone that sees it will know, and we're part of a little group. We're part of a secret I forgot community. Yeah. I'm not joking though. Like, do that and, like, let's do it. Okay, anyway. So this girl, Hyatt Sarah, you met her and you had the opportunity to meet her. And 300 people.
Okay,
Yeah.
So, there it goes. You caught me. Okay. She was celebrating a milestone. I want to say it was like 100,000, which, like, oh my god. Like, you freaking go, Glen Coco. Okay.
I just hit 13K and I'm so excited.
Oh,
I can't
you
imagine
should
her.
be so excited.
But like 100,000, that's incredible.
10,000, 5,000. I'm at 2,000. I'm grateful for you.
Yes.
Thank you, Lord. Now just get me to where I can pay some bills with that. Like, or at least get Brangels to make my overhead cheaper on my business. I'm like, if I could just get some product, shout out Tough Tech. I did have the opportunity to go on a trip with them over the summer, but anyways, someone was talking about how when she hit that big milestone, that in retrospect it was like filling up the BOK Center like 10 times or however many times. And then she said it seems minimal because social media has made us believe this number isn't as big as it is. But if you really think about it, it's this many times filling it. And can you imagine going to the BOK Center that many days consecutively and that many people being there solely to see you?
Right.
And that is
the dream, y'all.
That is the power of putting yourself out there and sharing your personality and being authentically who you are in a really fucking saturated market.
God, I love how you just described that, because that, what you just said about filling at the Be Okay Center and everyone there to see you and hear you and get to know you and your life and all of those things, and that's what I mean by I want to be as big as Coke. Like, that is that feeling, right? Like, I want that world impact, and that's something I've always said about myself, and it's become part of something that people who know me know about me, and it's just like an intimate thing, and like that feeling just resonated so deeply with me. I was like, yes, give me more.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I used to feel like I want to go to the store and people always know who I am. Like, in my mind, because, like, Britney Spears was popular and it was the 90s, I always thought it would be for something like that, which is, like...
That's all I knew. That's all that existed.
And my personality, knowing me now, like, I have the worst anxiety. I could never be that level of pressure, you know what I mean? But, like, I really feel like I am still living that. Because, like, I do still have people who, like, I only have a local following of 2,500 people per platform. And I think about how that translates and how often I run into people I know. And my kids are always like, everyone knows you. Yeah. Like, I literally go to the grocery store and, like, every time I know at least one person.
And that's magic, right? I feel like in this time where people are like, oh, they're fake, that's AI, you're fake, blah, 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 whatever they're acting, they're just an influencer, they're getting paid for this. It's bad to want to be famous, right? Because that's what it is, right? I would love to be famous. I always said that if I could sing, I would be a superstar right now. I feel like I got the star power, okay? Put me on the circle, Netflix. Tell me in the comments, whether you're listening in podcast or in video, tell me in the comments if you think Mackenzie Morris would crush and win the circle.
Great.
Nominate me. Yes.
Do you watch Secret Lives of Mormon Life?
No, but okay, here's the thing. I went to cancel Hulu, and then the first thing it showed us was that trailer on the big screen. It got us to not cancel Hulu because we said we were going to watch it, even though it's not something we usually watch, and we've never watched it, and we've paid for Hulu for another year. They got me. That's how you recover revenue from people leaving, y'all.
Okay, but you seriously need to prioritize watching it because Taylor Frankie Paul is the new Bachelorette.
I knew this. I knew that.
And I cannot wait for this shit show. I am so ready.
Okay. Why is it a shit show? Because she was doing the polyamorous thing?
Well, no, I just think that because it's, going to be just climactic. Even just the regular show that's not about dating is fucking crazy. So, I mean, like, can you imagine how insane
So on the crazy hot scale, she's both?
It's crazy. Okay. It's crazy.
So do you think that these people created their own destiny with this show? Do you think that the TV show platform that hosted it paid them and asked them to do this, or do you think they reached out to them and asked and presented their show idea to them?
That's a good question. I've actually never thought about that.
Because if they presented the idea to them, that's what people are doing in business. That's how people are creating their own destiny and creating your own reality, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like that might be what have happened, right? Maybe they have a social media presence and they realize, like, people are interested in this. We all have this many followers. Mm-hmm. Let's take this idea and expand the reach beyond social and go big or go home. Maybe they paid a massive fat stack to be on Hulu or to be on Netflix, whatever that is. They paid that price to reach the masses, and now look at where they are. With the money and the fame and all the things and the opportunities. That's what people say that's what people mean when they say you gotta go big and bet on yourself big. Like, that's a big move. Yeah. And I've often thought, like, truly, if I wanted to create a documentary about something, which I've started and have a TV production team and all of those things. Of course. But if I want to reach millions and millions of people, if I just found financial backing and we could afford to pay a Netflix or something like that to premiere what it was we created, you all of a sudden have the attention of the world right there on you. Like, it's this whole idea that actions like that are really not that far out of reach. Because one, a lot of people probably aren't applying for those. If they are, there's some red tape that most people will quit getting through. But if you're willing to get through that and fight through that, you can get to the finish line so much faster. Yeah. But then again, of course, it's way easier said than done, or else I would already be on Netflix, right? Like, I'm not shaming people, but this is the reality that I'm aware of. I think about how big of a decision is this? How big can I go right now without completely, like, burning down my life financially and all of these things, right? How big of a play can I make to just gamble, right? Because entrepreneurship and business and life is just winning a series of games of quizzes and puzzles and tests and solving problems. That's what it is, just over and over and over again.
That's actually so true. And that's really truly how you live.
Yeah.
You very much are like, I'm going to do this. And like, once you decide you're going to do it, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the identity, right? It's who you need to become in order to see the things through, right? So a lot of times people will have an idea and they'll go with it for a week or 2 weeks, and then something is slowing them down. Whether they're not getting engagement, they're not getting that dopamine, and now they're making it mean something about them, or this old identity of, oh my God, I've never really fully committed to something ever in my life, that where I've said I'm going to do it, I haven't stopped doing it ever. Right? So now there's a part of you that is identifying with that past version of yourself, and you start doing actions that self-sabotage, right? To where that reality will become and stay true.
Yeah.
So whenever you have a pattern that you recognize that like, okay, I'm doing this, I have this idea, I've been doing it for a week, and it's great, but now I usually quit. Now that you realize that, you have a choice. And my friend Kayla Birch, this is part of her TRM certification. You had a trigger, and now you have a choice point to choose how you're going to respond to it. And then you can go through there. And whenever you make a choice, you can choose to do what you've always done, or you can choose to become a better version of yourself.
Yeah.
Or the version of yourself that you've always been, right? That you needed to become to get to this level. And that's the game. That's the game.
Yeah. I think for a lot of people it ends because a lot of people don't realize that they have negative internal monologue, right? I think I remember being in therapy and my therapist being like, when was the first time that you thought to yourself, I'm not worthy of anything? And I was like, okay. That was like, I was like, why would you think that I think that?
Right.
She was like, you obviously think that. I was like, I'm going to need you to walk me back through this.
Yeah, most people don't realize that.
Yeah.
Most people have a worthiness problem. I've got Worthy by Jamie Kern Lima on my shelf right here. It is the world's #1 problem. It's an epidemic, and people don't even really know that there's a difference between like worthiness and confidence and self-image and all of those things. I highly recommend, if y'all haven't read it, there's a book called Worthy by Jamie Kern Lima. It was gifted to me by one of my really dear friends who, she was like, Mackenzie, I love you, but you need to know your worth. You need to love yourself more and recognize the incredible, amazing, magical human that you are and the things that you've done. A lot of times, if we have a lack of self-worth, we're not able to recognize those really incredible things that we've done in our lives. So she gifted me this book, and it quite literally changed my life. So go and get it, buy it wherever you can. One of the quotes that was in there that Jamie had put was, "You're not crazy, you're just first." And I loved it. Because I've never really related to anything more than that statement, where it's like, no one in my family was an entrepreneur, no one really had vision, no one had daydreams and all of that stuff. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. When I was 12, I had a company called Granada Bites, and I quite literally dehydrated bananas. I homemade peanut butter because I didn't want Jif to have to pay Jif royalties whenever I sold it in the stores. And then I would top these little banana chips with like peanut butter and honey and granola, and then package them up as like little chips and sell them. And like I got a offer from a company called Davidson Industries, and they wanted to work with me and handle my manufacturing. But my parents were not going to pay all that money to do that, so that was kind of the end of the dream. But all that to say, I've always kind of been the entrepreneur, the crazy one, the dreamer, and I've always felt so misunderstood because no one else had it. No one else had that entrepreneurial spirit, that big magic, idea of entrepreneurship and business.
Yeah. I think, like I was telling you earlier, I really always just saw myself just being a mom because I felt like that was safe and that was something that I knew that I could be good at. I was married, I could do things, but I was having more kids and it was like my whole identity. I was like a wife and a mom, you know what I mean? It was kind of like my dream. And then once I had been just that for so long, I started to have a hunger for my own thing and to be Mercedes again, still mom and still babe, wife and whatever, but also me.
Right. I think that's the hardest thing to do and to find after motherhood.
I think I used to be one of those people that was like, oh, I never would want to go back to work. And my friends would tell me they were going to go back to work. I'd be like, are you sure? Why?
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I never saw myself being somebody who really wanted to work. Because I really enjoyed being a stay-at-home mom. But I did start to realize, I'm having some major mental health issues.
Yeah.
And I'm having some major resentment. And the root of it really was that I was not my own person anymore. I was very much just rooted in what I had going on for my family.
Right.
And so then I was naturally more angry because I didn't feel like I was doing anything really that I enjoyed besides being with my kids. When I went to therapy, and did a lot of work to like unpack trauma and stuff that was going on under the surface, I started to just learn so much about myself, and I realized that I never really thought that I could be somebody who was doing something I enjoyed versus something I was obligated to do for a paycheck. Being able to identify when the first time I had a very prominent negative internal thought, like this will never work out for me, or this isn't for me because it's above me, or whatever, right? Told me so much about myself and was really helped me as an adult to realize that my original thought of I could never own a business or I could never have a job that I enjoy was not true, right? Because, like that's connected to this thought, and so I can continue to grow this thing. I just have to be dedicated to learning that.
So interesting that you mentioned how you never really saw yourself as someone who would want to go back to work and wouldn't want to stay home. When growing up, I never envisioned myself staying home. Like, I always envisioned myself working. Like, whenever I tell people, like, who I want to be when I grow up, like, you know, grow up as a successful person I've always envisioned, like, I would love to be perceived as Sandra Bullock from The Proposal. Okay, hear me out. Hear me out. Homegirl's shoes are clanking on the tile of her big skyrise office. Bad bitch energy. Right there, number one. But two, behind the scenes, Homegirl is so fun. She is so fun. She has this whole personality. And, like, when people give her a chance, they understand. And I relate a lot to that. I feel that so deeply, where I feel like I'm very misunderstood a lot. So that's how I've always envisioned myself. And now that I do stay at home with my kids, I'm like, this is so different. But I've also gone and built my own little business world here, hence we are in our pod studio, within that world. So I've kind of merged the two. Thank you guys so much for listening to another episode of the Too Big to Fit podcast. This was a lot of everything, which is exactly kind of the point of what I want this to be. I want this to be a place for anything and everything. We talked about reality shows. We talked about self-worth. We talked about identity and business and motherhood and so much in this episode. If you liked this, please make sure that you are following the show, like it, leave a review, and come back for the next episode of the Too Big to Fit podcast.